Hey there folks, welcome to this Python Pygame project. In this little series we're going to be making the game that you can see in front of you, pipes. Basically connect the pipes from the start to the end so that the water can flow through based on a timer that with each round the timer gets less and less and less. This is a fun project and I hope you enjoy it. Right, the first thing we're going to do, Right, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to create our main game class. So we're going to import Pygame. Then once we've imported Pygame, I'm having a bit of initialization. So we're going to initiate the Pygame module straight away. And then we're also going to initialize the Pygame display.init module inside the Pygame module itself. I'll explain that to you later on why. Normally when I'm loading images and it's not included in the main game loop already, it gives me a bit of an issue because the display module is not set up. So we can't load images into the game just yet. So I just initialize those two modules right at the start of the script, and then we'll get into the main game loop. So the first thing we want to do is we want to set up the classes. So we're going to have define our class as, let's just call it game for now. And we're going to define init, give it an init method, which is not like that. Init. We don't need to pass it any arguments for now. Right. So I do have this project. I've already made it, created. I've put the code on the left. I'm trying to minimize the amount of times I refer to this. Oh, while we're busy with this, let's hang on. Let's go into presentation mode. That'll make it easier for everyone to see what's going on. Yeah, that looks better. So we can actually follow what's happening here. Cool. So as I mentioned, we've imported Pygame. We've got our Pygame.init, our Pygame.display.init. All right, and then we're creating our game class. So in our game class, the initialization method, we're going to go self.screenWidth is going to be equal to screen width, and self.screenHeight is going to be equal to screen height. Now, obviously, those two are two variables or constants that we have not created thus far. I'm going to create a little section just below our classes for constants. Let's call it constants, because these variables are basically not going to change. And we're going to call screen width. We're going to give it, sorry, I've got these made out already. What did I call them? Come on, where are you? There we go. So our screen width, we're going with 960. Our screen height, we are going with 896. We're going to go with rows, we're going to go with 12 columns. So we're going to go with 12 as well. Cell size, we're going to give it 64. I think for now we're going to remove those variables. We'll get to them. We'll put them in when we get to them. Otherwise, what will happen is later on when we're programming those methods, you will have forgotten where I got those variables from. So I think it's best we do them as we go along. So in our main game loop, we've got our screen width, we've got our screen height. I think the next one we're going to do then is we're going to say self.screen, which is going to be our game screen. We're going to say that self.screen is going to equal to Pygame.display.set mode, and that is going to be self.screenWidth by self.screenHeight. Right, we're just going to create Pygame.display.set caption. So we're just going to change the name of the window. We're going to make it say pipes. Okay. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to create a little variable called self.run, and that's going to be equal to true. So that's going to be the variable, the check for our main game. Okay, and then the methods we're going to create for our class, our game class is going to be, the first one is going to be run game. I'm not going to pass it any arguments. And inside run game, we're going to say it's going to be a while loop, while self.run is set to true. We're then going to run self.input, which will be our input method. We're going to say self.update, which will be our update method. And we're going to say self.draw, which is drawing our game window to the screen and updating it with every loop. Now, obviously, we haven't got those methods, so we need to create them now quickly. So underneath our define run game, we're going to start off with the self.input. No. We're going to call it, we have to define it. Define input, self, and no arguments. And inside of the input method, we're going to create a little event checker, or just for our input on the mouse. So we're going to say for events in pygame.event.get, right? If event.type is equal to pygame.quit, then we're going to say that the self.run variable will then be equal to false, and that will break us out of our game loop and therefore end the game. Okay, after our input method, we're going to create our update method. Right now we don't have anything to update, so we're just going to say pass, and then below that we're going to say our draw method. And in our draw method, this is where we're actually drawing our game to the screen, right? So the first thing we're going to put is we're going to say self.screen.fill. So we're going to fill the screen with black color. So we're just basically going to create blank screen. And then below that, we're going to say pygame.display.update. Right. So if we, it's not going to work anything now if we try and run it because there's nothing to run. So that's our main game class that we've got created here. We've got our draw method, we've got our update method, we've got our input method, we've got our run game method, which basically loops through each of these three methods. All right. Then here below our constants, right at the bottom, we're going to put in our if name equals __ main __. If name equals main, all right, if we're running this script, we're going to say game is equal to game. And then we're going to say game.run, right? No, not run. Game.run game. Okay. And if we've broken out of that loop, we're going to say pygame.quit. Okay, that should close our program off. So we should be able to run this now quickly, and we should get a screen that pops up on a game. Our game screen should pop up on the on our window. So let's go ahead and try and run that now quickly and see what happens. We have our game screen. It's according to the screen width and the screen height that we set. We have our caption. It says Pipes, and of course there's nothing happening on the screen because we're not telling it to do anything. But now that's our main game class that we've created, which is fantastic. What we're going to do now as well, while we're setting up this main game so far, is I think we're going to input all of our images. So let me just change the view quickly to normal. All right. So in the GitHub repository, you'll be able to find the images that we've created under the assets folder. All right. So what we're going to do is we're going to now load all of these assets into all these images onto the game, into the memory, so that we can then call them as needed. All right. This little bit is quite, it's pretty intense in terms of what needs to be typed out. There is 2 or 3 utility functions that we're going to put in place now quickly, which I think would be fantastic to do. And I'll walk you through them right at the top of our screen. All right. Okay, just before we carry on, let's just... So if you look at our assets, our images, we've got our board. That's what the one tile looks like. That's what the other tile looks like. Then you've got your pipes, and then the flow of the water. All right. So we're going to import all of these images. That's a sprite sheet. This is a regular image. This is a regular image. So we're going to create some utility functions to handle a regular image as well as the sprite sheets. So right at the top, let's just put this back into presentation view so everyone can see what's happening. So right at the top, just underneath the Pygame initialization, we're going to create a little section for utility functions. And this is basically where we're going to handle just random little functions that just like load images and things like that. Okay. The first function we're going to create is we're going to create a define loadSpriteSheet function, right? And we're going to give it an argument of path. And let's just put a little comment. Load in a sprite sheet image, right? And that's just going to be straightforward. Image is equal to pygame.image.load and path. All right. Once we've done that, we're going to return that image. Nice, easy, straightforward. Nothing too fancy there. All right. Now the reason for that. Okay, because as you saw, remember I told you we've got images and we've got sprite sheets. So we're going to have three functions that we're going to create quickly. We've got the sprite sheet. Now we're going to create a utility function called spriteImage. Basically, this is where we are getting the individual image out of that sheet of lots of, so the sheet with lots of images. Now we're going to create a function that gets us each individual image out of that sheet. All right. So sprite image and the arguments we need to give it, we're going to give it the sprite sheet, all right, which will be, and then the size of the image, the x coordinate of each image, the y coordinate of each image, the width, and the height. All right. So let's give it a little comment here. The comment we wrote was function to extract an individual image from a sprite sheet. I think that's fairly straightforward. All right, so the first thing we did is we're going to create a new canvas, if you can call it that. We're going to create a blank image. We're going to call it surface. So we're going to say pygame.surface, and we're going to pass it the argument, the size argument. Then we're going to fill that surface with black, because that's the easiest. All right. Then we're going to take that surface and we're going to blit to that surface, that new surface, the sprite sheet. Remember that image that we're going to load, the sprite sheet itself. But then we're looking for the position, on the surface. The position on the surface, where are we saving this image to? So where on the surface image are we blitting this sprite sheet, the sprite, onto where? So we're blitting it into the coordinates 0, 0. So basically top left corner of the new canvas image that we've just created called surface. Okay, and then obviously now from the sprite sheet, what size image are we looking to get? We don't want the whole image, we just want a certain section. So we want from the x coordinate on the sprite sheet, the y coordinate on the sprite sheet, and then we want the width of the image and the height of the image. All right, and these are all arguments that we passed to the sprite image function right at the top. Okay, once we've done that, we're going to say surface.set color key, and that's going to be black. So what that does is it takes wherever there's black on the image that we've just split to the surface. So it's going to take the surface image and it's going to look for the color black and it's going to make it transparent. All right. And then we are going to return that new surface image. So basically we've just created a new image from the sprite sheets. So we've extracted each individual sprite. Okay. Now there is a major function that we need to create. We're going to call it loadImages. Right, we're going to give it a path, num image horizontal, and that's going to be equal to 1 as a default, num image vertical, and that's also going to equal 1 as a default, scale image is going to equal false, so we're not automatically going to scale every image. Scale size will be equal to 64 by 64 by default, and we also want to check if we need to rotate the image. If we need to rotate the image, currently we're going to load it in as default. Default's going to be false, and rotation will then be equal to 0. The default, which would be how much we rotate each image by. Okay, so this is basically one function to handle various types of images that you want to load in. So let me go through the function itself with the various coded. Let's just code it quickly so you'll be able to see where we're going through it. So the first thing we need to do is just put in the description. function to collate all sprites, collate all sprites from a sheet into a single list. All right. So we're going to say the sprite sheet, right, will be equal to load the sprite sheet from above, right? Load sprite sheet above. That function we just created above here in the path. It's going to be the path. We're passing it the same argument again. Then we're going to say sprite sheet width will be equal to sprite sheet dot get width, and sprite sheet height is equal to sprite sheet dot get height. All right. So we're basically getting the width and the height of the sprite sheet in total. All right. So yeah, I actually forgot I did this. That was cool. So basically we're accepting a sprite sheet. So we have to look at that sprite sheet itself and see how many images are in it. I think with these sheets there was 15 images or 11 images on the sprite sheet itself, but only in one row. So that's what we're busy doing here. So we're saying sprite sheet width sprite. So we're busy calculating the width of each individual image on the sprite sheet itself. Image horizontal. Sprite width is equal to the sprite sheet width divided by the image horizontal. Remember, we said default is 1. So if there's only one image on, if there's only one sprite on the image, then that would just be 1, and this would still all remain as 1. Sprite height is equal to sprite sheet height divided by num image vertical. So how many rows of images are there? All right, once you've got that, oh, look at that. Let's make that spelling error correct. Cool. Sprite height, sprite width. Great. We're then going to create our image list. It's going to be an empty list, right? Image list. So now we're going to cycle through the sprite sheet itself. So for row in range, num image horizontal, no vertical, because the first rows is always in Pygame. Yes, the first row is basically your rows up and down, and then the second for loop is your columns. I always get those mixed up. So I hope you may be able to follow that as well. I'm going to say for column in range num image horizontal. Am I right now? Yes. Okay, so now so in each row, now we're cycling across each loop, each column, beg your pardon. All right, once we've got that, we're going to say, well, image will be equal to sprite image. Okay, that function we created above here, this one right here, this function here. Okay, so we need to give it a sprite sheet. What is wrong with my spelling there? Sprite sheet, that looks fine now. Sorry about that. So image is equal to sprite image. We need to pass it the sprite sheet. Sprite sheet. Okay. We also need to pass it the size tuple. I'm going to put it on a new line. We're going to say sprite width and sprite height. That should be a capital letter. So we've got sprite width and sprite height. All right. Then we also need to pass it the x coordinate. So here's where we're going to get a little bit clever. We're going to say it's the column in this for loop, the number, multiplied by the sprite width. Right, that's our x coordinate. And then we're looking for our y coordinate is going to be our row number multiplied by sprite height. Okay, no, don't close the brackets there, another comma. And then for the width and height, we're going to say sprite width and sprite height. Cool. So now we will be looping through the sprite sheet image. and we'll basically be extracting each individual image from it, and we'll return that function to each image for each section of the loop. All right. Once we've done that, we're going to then say, well, if scale image is equal to true. All right, so what we're doing now is we're checking our arguments from above here. So when we call the loadImages function, if the scale image is equal to true, we now need to rescale or resize that particular image that we've just pulled out of the sprite sheet. Image will be equal to pygame.transform.scale image scale size. Okay. So if the scale image by default is false, that if check won't even be done at all. I'm going to say if rotate image is equal to true. It's going to be a capital. If the rotate image is equal to true, we're going to say image will be equal to pygame.transform.scale the image and rotation. All right. Once we've done those two if checks, if they are to be done or not, doesn't matter, it goes through, then we will say, cool. So now we're going to append this image to our image list. Append image. Right. And once that's done, we're just going to return our image list. Fantastic. So that was a very long function for loading our images, but these three functions basically handle everything we need to do for the images that we're loading into our game for this project. So these three images will handle everything we need. All right. Let me get stuck in with the next item quickly. Right, so what we need to do now is actually load in the images themselves. Okay, and this does take a little bit of time. There is a lot of images we're going to load. I did think of doing them as a for loop. I ran into a bit of issues because we're going to be using the image names in particular later on when we do the logic for the game. So right, so I'm going to scroll down here to below our constant variables that we created. We're going to create a section for assets. All right. So we're going to create our start game image loop, game image. So we're going to create it as a dictionary. And the first one we're going to call is our start right image, right? So basically our starting pipe pointing to the right. Okay. And to do that, we're going to call the loadImages function. The path we're going to give it is assets, pipe start strip 11 is the file name. Okay. Now, so the number of images horizontally, there's only one image. The number of images vertically was only one, which are defaults. These are defaults. We didn't actually need to put anything in for these. We don't need to put these two arguments in. We do want it to scale true. And when we scale, the size is going to be the image size. We're going to be using the same image size for all of our images. So here are my constants. Let's just define that image size variable as, I think it was, what was it? It was 64 by 64. That's straightforward. So tuple 64 pixels by 64. All right. So there's three more images. We're going to do the S right, then we're going to do S left. I think I'll just do that one quickly. So then we're going to say S left image is going to be loadImages function. Assets is the folder, pipe start strip 11, right? That's the file. Hang on. I'm lying to you guys here. I just want to see something. Go to my appearance, exit presentation mode. Bear with me quickly. So where's our pipe starts? Start board pipe start strip 11. I'm just going to open the file. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So there's 11 images for our starting pipe. See, I forgot about that. So for the right, number of images horizontally is 11. So for all of them is actually 11. I'm just going to go back to presentation mode. Okay, where is it? There we are. So S left load images is our asset pipe start strip 11 PNG. There's 11 horizontal images, but there's only one row. Okay, we do want to scale, and that's going to be my image size. Now we also want to rotate these images because our pipes images are all facing to the right. We need to rotate the image to the left now. So in order to rotate it that way, it's fairly straightforward. We're going to say true, and we're going to rotate it 180. Okay. Then I'm just going to copy paste the last two, which is going to be S left, S up, and S down. Go ahead and pause the video quickly so that you can insert the right arguments that you need. But there's the S up and S down. That is our starting pipe image. Now the starting pipe image is different to your other images. That's why it's got its own little dictionary, its own data type. Okay. The next one we're going to put in is our end images. So end is going to be equal to another dictionary. Now the end, we're going to have the same thing. We're going to have this and E right. Okay. And it's going to be equal to load images. The path will be assets pipe end.png. There's only one image in the image. There's only one item there. Right, there's only one image vertically. It's only one single image on itself. It's the ending pipe. Where are we? Okay, it's the end pipe. We do want to scale the image with our image. Where are we now? Where am I talking? There we go. Our image size. We don't need to rotate it currently. Okay. We're going to do the same. We need to input the image for the left, right, up, left, up, and down. So we're going to copy paste it for you guys. Please feel free to pause the video so you can copy in those copy in the rest of the code for these images. Yes, you see the image itself, it's 128 by 128 pixels. We actually need it to be 64 by 64. Then we need it to face left, right, up, or down itself. So that is the images that has now been loaded in for our ending pipe. We have the start, we have the end. Now we actually need to input the actual pipes themselves. So the pipes is going to be very much the exact same. However, we have these pipes are labeled like such. So you have left, right, or right, left. Okay, and that's going to be equal to pygame.transform.scale. So this is just the pipe on its own, the image on its own. Okay, so pygame.image.load, because the image is already the right size. No, it's not the right size, that's why we're doing the scale. However, it's just the image by itself. So we're loading the image here. Assets. Horizontal is the other folder it's in. It's the horizontal, and then it's pipe horizontal.png. And this, close the brackets there. We want it to be 64 by 64, or actually image size. Image size. We need to scale it. I'm just wondering, why didn't we use the load images? Why didn't we do that? I mean, that's what it's for. Let's go ahead and do that. It's a lot easier than doing this. So I'm going to go with load images. Load images. Assets. Horizontal. Horizontal. Okay, wait. Wait. Okay, So load images function at the top here, does it return? It returns a list. And we don't want these to be a list. We don't want these images to come back as a list. That's why we didn't do it like that. Okay, so the reason why we did it the other way was because the functions that we created return the images in a list form. Which is, I don't think, an issue, because we can just then extract that item out of there. So let's pipe horizontal. This is what we're going to do. We're going to see if it works. Pipe horizontal.png. All right. So that's our path. It's one image by one image. True, because we do want to scale it. We want to scale it by image size. All right. And then we want to extract the very first item in that list that it returns. I have a feeling that should work. Okay, so let's move on, and we will be able to test it in a moment once we get towards the end of this video. If it doesn't work, we'll come back and fix it. But I think that'll just be a better way, because it's, I mean, we're writing out another. We wrote a function to deal with this stuff. Why are we doing that again? Okay, that's our left, right, right, left. Top, bottom to bottom, top image is going to be load images, assets, vertical, pipe vertical.png, one image by one image, true for scale, image size, all right, and the very first item in that list. Oh, it's a dictionary, Harry. You need to remember to put in your commas. Okay, you'll just have to bear with me. I can't copy paste this section because I didn't do it this way the last time. So we're on new ground. We're exploring new ground here, chaps. New ground. But that's what you're supposed to do, is go through your code and see if you can improve on it always. So left to top or top to left. Assets top left is the folder. Pipe corner top left. Am I in the right place? Where am I? Pipe corner top left .png. That's it. It's one by one. True. Image size. And then 0 in the list. So that's left top. Okay, I'm going to quickly copy paste this. Control C, Control V, V. All right. Left top. Now we're going to go with left bottom or bottom left. This is going to be bottom left, pipe corner, bottom left. Okay. Then now we're going to, what's happened there? All right, go back. All right. Then on this one here, it's going to be right top, top to right. Assets top left. It's going to be right, pipe corner top right. Okay. And then the last one is going to be right bottom or bottom right. It's going to be bottom right, pipe corner bottom right. Okay, and we don't need a comma there. Delete that. All right. So now we've loaded our pipe images themselves, the actual image itself. Okay. And then the last dictionary that we're going to create is going to be the actual flowing water mechanic, the flow water. We're going to call it flow. Okay. And that's also a dictionary. And it's going to start with left to right flow. And that's going to be a load images, because this is a list of images. Load images, assets, horizontal, water horizontal left strip, right? There is 11 images, one row of images, scale true, true, okay. Scales what size? Oh, the default is 64 by 64 already. We've already got scale size here as 64 by 64. So actually, if you go down here with all these image sizes here, you see, because we've got these items here. So here we can just say true, and then we'll already accept the defaults. Okay. So that's LR. Now we need to do this quite a few times because we've got left to right, then we've got right to left, then we've got top to bottom, and we also have to load bottom to top. So I'm going to copy paste these because there is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 12 of them. And I don't want to waste your time. So let's just copy paste those into here, my dictionary. And please feel free, please go ahead and pause your video and copy them into your side if you can. It's just straightforward. So on each one of these images, so the left to right strip, you'll see it's going from thin to thick by the end of it. But then if we're doing the opposite angle from right to left, it doesn't look like, it looks the same. It's not. Yeah, how do we, how can I? Oh, the right to left, left to right is the same. Not exactly. Top to bottom, bottom to top, top left. You can barely notice it, but there is differences. So like, yeah, you can see the real difference here. It starts with a very thin at the top and it ends very thick all the way to the bottom. But when you look at the other way, it starts very thin at the bottom and works its way up to the top. Okay. Anyway, so the last dictionary we need to load in is the actual board images. Okay. And that is going to be dark load images, assets, board doc.png, one image, true. Okay. And light load images, assets, board light.png, 1 true. Okay, that is all of our images for the game loaded in. We need to find a way to test this. Okay, we can run it quickly and see if everything's still, like, if the game still runs. Oh, line 38. Name image. Oh dear. Line 38. Image, Pygame transfer. That's there. That's not going to work. Let's see if there's any other spelling mistakes. Size must be 2 numbers. Line 38 again. Image is equal to pygame.transform.scale image. Oh, mustn't be scale, it must be rotate. See, line 38. There we go. So everything's loaded. The game's still running. The images are loaded in the memory in the background. We just can't see them. Let's create a function quickly so that we can actually see these images on the screen, see how it looks. Let's go back up to our utility functions underneath our loadImages function. Let's create a new function, define a new function called diff testLoadedImages. We're going to give it the window, the x start coordinate. We're going to give it the y start coordinate, image width, image height, image list, and image dictionary. Okay, those are the arguments we're going to give it through. So let's just give it a little descriptor here. test function to reflect all images on the game window. Okay. So let's go for this. So here we're going to go for row num in enumerate image list, for col image in enumerate row, num enumerate image dict num. Okay. Window dot lit the image. We want to go with x start plus image width multiplied by column, and then y start position plus image height multiplied by row. Okay, I'd worked that out previously when I was making this function. We need to call these functions. We're going to call it under our main game class, under draw. Let's go with, okay, I've created these functions on my own. All right, so what we want to do is quickly, in our draw method, we're going to go with self.screen. Lit self.screen.lit the start pop. Let's go with sRight. Number 5, image number 5, just why not? Position 500 by 500. Let's just quickly run that. We should get an image on the screen for our starting pop. There it is. See, the image is half filled up with water. Okay, cool. Let's go with the test loaded images. Self.screen is the window argument. 64 by 64, 64 by 64. Start.keys, turn it into a list. Start, list, start, dot keys, which is a dictionary. So remember, the start is a dictionary. We need to, the start.keys returns like a list of all the keys in the dictionary. We're going to convert that to a list quickly and start. Okay, if we run those, that should be a list of these images on the top right. Image list is not defined. List. Here's my function for test loaded images. Of course, we wrote image img list and img dict. It should work now. Let's try again. Oh, look at that. So that's all of our starting pipes. As you can see, if they're going to the right, they're empty, then it starts filling up with the water with the animations. Same with if it was all going to the left, same if it was all going to the top, same if it was all going to the bottom. So that seems to be working. So we've loaded those images correctly. That's fantastic. Test loaded images, self.screen, 64 X start, but the Y start this time we're going to go 320. 64 list end dot keys, of course dot keys end should be the end images should pop up. There's the end pipes, as you can see, left, right, down, up. Okay. The next one, let's check out if the test loaded images self.screen X starting position is going to be 704. 320 will be the Y position start, 64 by 64. pipes. How did we do the pipes? Did we do the pipes? They are, it's not a list of images. So it's not a list. It's not a list. It's not a list. It's not a list. It's an image by itself. Although we need it to be a list. Okay, let's go back down to our pipes. Here at the end, we wanted to return a list. We want it to be a list. So let's have it inside there as a list. That's so silly. That's... No, hang on. What am I doing? Don't do that. Don't do that. It still needs to be a list of pipes.keys. Right. Still needs to be like that. Still has to happen. And pipes. Okay, it still has to happen. It should run. Nope, there we go, it didn't run. So Pygame is not iterable. So you see in our argument for this function, image dictionary, image list. We're not, those images are still not in the lists. That's images by themselves. Pipes, it's an image by itself. So we do need to actually return this as a list by itself, like normal. And the pipes. Let's let it run now. It should work. There's our various pipes. But it still worked though. I don't know why we still ended up using this. We had the images, the pipe images coming back in a list anyway. I don't know why I don't know, must have been doing it funny when I was trying an image by itself. Anyway, it doesn't matter, it's working now. So we don't need to fuss too much about this. We've got the pipes. Let's test the testLoadedImages, self.screen, 704. We're going to start with 64 by 64. So the x coordinate is going to be 64, the y coordinate is going to be 64. Image width like normal, image height like normal. List flow dot keys and flow. All right, let's see what that looks like. Okay, well, hang on. That's not running exactly correctly, although I'm just having a look. It looks like I didn't do a test for each images with the flow, with the flows for each item. So if we comment these out quickly, right, you'll be able to see the water flow itself for each item. So you've got the left to right and right to left. There, now you can actually see the difference between the water animations. So left to right starts on the left hand side and then it flows to the right. Right to left is right flowing, it's flowing this way. And from top to bottom and bottom to top, and then left up, as you can see, or up to the left, as you can see. That's why there was 12 of these items that we were loading. So that's the water flow images. Okay. Okay. So anyway, the water images have been loaded incorrectly. Let's check that the last item has been loaded incorrectly. Self.screen, 64 by 64, 64, list board dot keys. Okay, board. Those are the last images that we loaded. Let's make sure that they're loaded incorrectly. There's our dark board and our light board. Straightforward, easy enough. All right, let's comment that out. So as you can see, our images have been loaded. There we go. Our images have been loaded into the game correctly. They're all being loaded into the memory. We are not having any issues in that regard. which is absolutely fantastic. Just thinking. Yeah. That's going to be it for this video. We've got our utility functions, the 4 utility functions. We've got our main game class, and we've loaded in all the images for our game. All right. So in the next videos, we'll be looking at our game logic as well as the individual piece classes. Might be 2 more videos, maybe 3. So I hope to see you in those videos. If you liked this video, if you enjoyed this video, if you enjoyed listening to me ramble on, thanks, I guess. You could really show your appreciation by hitting the like button, maybe subscribing. If you've got any comments or hints or suggestions, please hit me up in the comment section down below. I'd really appreciate it. And cheers for now.